Well, a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round 12 of the AROC Racing League's historic championship for 2025/6. The penultimate round, folks. Can you believe it? A slightly longer season this time around, and it is finally beginning to draw to a close, which is a great shame. The historic running hasn't had perhaps the packed grids that the touring cars had throughout the year, but has given us some fantastic racing, some brilliant, brave overtakes with new-coming drivers as well as incumbent champions, as well as the great imagery of seeing a classic twin-cam-powered GTA 1750-105 Series Alpha on the racetracks as well. We're on board with Steve Knight at the moment. We have just under 9 minutes to go in qualifying. And 4 cars have posted a competitive time for the time being on their timing tower. Lots of the use of the words time there, but Andrew Whitehead currently leads the charge in this championship session. It's a 1 minute 12.0. That's half a second quicker than anyone else in this session so far. That is a blistering time from Whitehead, and I must say that hasn't quite updated properly on our end, so apologies folks. It will do within the next couple of laps. So it's Andrew Whitehead with a 1 minute 11.8 who currently leads the charge in this session. Just behind him is Andy Webb with a 1 minute 11.82. So getting very close at the top end of qualifying as Whitehead finds a way around Paul Millman there. And then we have Alan Matthews in P3 in the running in this session. It's 1 minute 12 flat. So again, only 0.2 of a second off. We are going to try and go on board with Andy Webb though, because he's on a bit of a flyer at the moment. One of the newcomers to the series this year was Andy Webb, and he's looking fairly poised for a good performance here at Castle Combe. I haven't even mentioned we're at Castle Combe this evening. It's been another one of those evenings, folks, where Reeve's had effectively zero sleep the night before. So who knows what Reeve's brain's going to come out with this evening. So do brace yourselves for that one, folks. I'm already forgetting that we're actually at a racetrack and to talk about it. But 7.5 minutes to go in this session, and Andy Webb has just crossed the line. Just about misses out on improving the previous time around. Was purple through Sector 2. Unfortunately, Sector 3 running through Dean and into the camp corner, not quite the way that he would have wanted it to go. Now we head down to the paddock chicane, which isn't actually on my track diagram here, which, but fear not, there's not any major diagram changes to track. There's 2 chicanes added for myself. You guys can obviously see exactly what it looks like, but this is more of an internal note really to note that out of tower there is another small chicane as well as the run into the paddock bend as well. We're actually going to go on board with Andrew Whitehead, who is looking like he's on for a bit of a flyer as well. There is his nearest rival in this session, Andy Webb, just in front of him. It's personal best through Sector 1. Sector 2 is a bit of a loss, but still looking pretty good. And now there's just that one last sector to go. Let's see what Webb can do versus Whitehead. It's Webb up in front. It'll be Webb crossing the line first. Into the folly we go. Oh, that's a massive improvement for Andrew Whitehead on the timing board there. Sector 3 was a flyer for Andrew Whitehead, and that is a 1 minute 11.6. Matthews goes up into 1 minute 12.4 region on the timing tower. He's still his fastest is 1 minute 12.0, so apologies, the timing tower is at least, you know what, can I do it? Can I do it? Nothing to see here, folks. We're just going to put you back. We'll put you back. There's nowhere I can put you without breaking everything for the racing. So 6 minutes left to go. Let's not try to completely reassemble how the stream graphics look at this late stage. I am going to go on board with Matt Daly though, because Matt Daly, in his traditional form, is arriving into the session in its dying moments and is getting poised to set a blistering time. I suspect it's a 1 minute, no, it's a 19.7 through Sector 1. That's a 10th faster than what anyone else has been able to achieve so far by the looks of things. Sector 2 comes up in just a moment. The sectors come thick and fast in this one. A 32nd is the longest sector that you'll see at the track. Very short track indeed, 1 minute 11.6. Matt Daly in his traditional yellow liveried car, which is doing very well in the championships this year. He still has a fairly comfortable lead as things stand, owing to some of the escapades over the past couple of rounds. Daly heads in to the final corner though of the camp right-hander. What is Matt Daly going to do? Well, he's going to go purple, personal best, Sector 2 as well. Sector 3 draws to a close, and it's a 1 minute 12.0. That's second on your timing tower, folks, but I can tell you for a fact that that is 4th overall in the actual qualifying order. That is not quite where I expected Matt Daly to be in this one so far. I say that like I'm disappointed. It's his first run in qualifying. There's still 4 minutes left, and he's already banged in a 1:12 flat, matching Alan Matthews, only missing out on him by a 3,000th of a second. It's a very close run between Matthews and Daly at the moment, but I have a feeling that already fast off the blocks is Daly. He's going to be in contention for this one. He's the only driver still posting personal best sectors, perhaps because he's only just joined, but we're going to go aboard with Webb, who goes purple through Sector 2, nearly eclipsing the 30-second barrier in the timing for that middle part of the circuit, and it is Webb now just heading through the cam corner. One last part of the track to negotiate. Across the line we go for Andy Webb. It is an improvement, just not quite enough one. A drastic improvement over his last time. It's a 1:11.691, so he's found 2 extra tenths there, but nothing that he can do to eclipse Andrew Whitehead so far. We are going on board though with Daly, who crosses the line and takes provisional pole at this late phase of the championship session. It's a 1:11.426. 0.2 of a second faster than Whitehead, faster than anyone else has been able to achieve so far, with a purple Sector 2 and Sector 3. This lap really came to life late on for Daly, and was looking pretty good in Sector 1 as well. So that's 2 purples to Daly, first blood as well. This is going to be a very interesting one now, folks, in the final 3 minutes, because we're seeing quite a few of our front-running drivers starting to post some really fast sector times. Jack Hodson's also improving at the moment. It's a 1:13.4 on the board so far. That was just set with 2 personal best sectors towards the end of the lap as well, just like Matt Daly there. Hodson currently in 6th. We're going to go back on board, though, with Daly, who does have some traffic to contend with here. This is one part of the nature of Castle Combe. It is high speed. There are overtaking opportunities, but it's a very narrow circuit, so it's going to be a tough one for Daly to negotiate while still keeping the lap times looking strong. He does lose out for the middle sector as well. That's perhaps unsurprising. We have a driver diving into the pits there. And let's see, that is also going to be Millman abandoning the lap. That's what that driver is. As we see, there's now a gap between Matthews and Daly. Daly continues on to start the next lap. Obviously compromised that time around. No harm, no foul, though. We still have a couple of minutes to go, and it's perhaps expected given the nature of the track. So 2.5 minutes ago, let's calm things down briefly if we can, just to say a quick hello to everyone watching on at home this evening. We had some fantastic audience engagement last time around. Thoroughly enjoyed my time there, so hello to all of you watching along at home. Do let us know who you're rooting for. What are you expecting from the action this evening? And, well, what are your predictions in this championship? Because it's looking close, isn't it, folks? Still 30 points between the drivers with 4 points scoring rounds to go. 25 points per race victory, so that's 100 points on offer, and it's Matt Daly 383 to his name, Whitehead 352. Those are the 2 drivers in contention. Mathematically, Alan Matthews is just out of it now. He cannot do anything else. This is going to be between Whitehead and Daly, but Matthews is having further issues and is on the infield of the circuit. He's going to be able to pick up the pieces and continue on, but he needs to continue on this fuel load and on these tyres, because he's only got 1:20 left in this session. So that is not the way you want to bring an end to your run here at Castle Combe this evening. 1:20 left to go, as I say, and Daly still leads the charge with that impressive late run. He's got a habit of that, has Matt Daly, and it is ever so impressive when he does manage to achieve it. We're on board, though, with Whitehead, who goes personal best through Sector 1. 1 minute on the clock to go in what will be his penultimate qualifying session of the season. A major season for Andrew Whitehead. Obviously had a fantastic return to the AROC Racing League's action last year, and is hoping to, I imagine, continue on that strong record. Has done really well regardless, and that is something that I must echo throughout the entire field, regardless of who we're really shouting about on that final lap of the final race of the season. Everyone has done a stellar job in what has sometimes been a tricky car, but I am sure everyone's really enjoyed the unique nature of some historic classic racing car action. But Whitehead heads around the final corner, personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2, loses out through that 3rd sector, but is still only 0.2 of a second off Matt Daly. 24 seconds left on the clock. He can obviously continue this lap, but this is going to be make or break for Whitehead, and he abandons the run. Whitehead abandons the run. That's all he can do in qualifying. P2 is all he can hope for. It's up to Webb to try and make the difference. Perhaps Matthews as well, if he's been able to get back underway. He allows Matthews through, does Webb. Now that is going to seal potentially the fate of the pole position in this session. The checkered flag is waved. Matthews comes home 4th. That's all he can do. Davis is in 5th. 6th goes to Hodson as it stands, unless there's a major improvement. Doesn't look like there's going to be. Then we have 97th and Millman 8th. It's the top 3 still to go in this session, though. We're going to go on board with, well, it's Hodson across the line coming up in just a moment. Camp Corner to negotiate. And using as much of the track he does, and then some as well. Onto the grass goes Hodson, crosses the line. Actually, he's still classified as being able to run, but I doubt will continue on with the run. It's going to be Daly, the driver, up next. Not looking strong so far. But what I mean by that is a really competitive Sector 1. It's just not his personal best or an improvement so far. It's a 19.6, and through Sector 2, likewise, no improvements to be found so far. He does have one hand on the provisional pole trophy so far, does Daly, so it's still looking pretty good to continue on his reign over this championship. We just have the right-hander to end the lap to go. Now we've seen a few cars go a little bit wide here. No such issues with Matt Daly. He crosses the line and finds the time in the final sector as well. 1 minute 11.12. 2 more tenths out of nowhere. Sector 1 and Sector 2 losing out. Sector 3 was, well, that car was a missile, quite frankly. A 21.335 sees Matt Daly take provisional pole with style as well, just when I'd pretty much written it off as well. Whitehead doesn't improve in the end, nor does Webb, nor does anyone else for that matter. The big and perhaps most important improvement, though, is Matt Daly. Not only does he seal his provisional pole and turn it into a proper pole, but if that pace is anything to go by, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with here at Castle Combe this evening. So we're going to take a few minutes worth of a break. We'll be back as we get ready for the race 1 action. Welcome back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are on the slightly quirky grid here at Castle Combe, ready for race 1. If we had a few more cars here this evening, we will be seeing our grid wrapping around the camp corner to try and get lined up on the grid. We have just over 30 seconds to go now until lights out, and I think we're in for a good one. Thank you to those of you who have dropped some comments in. Andrew Brammer says this is going to be a typical Matt Ted battle, and I completely agree. I think we're going to see a clash of the ages, somewhat Hamilton and Verstappen, only perhaps more respectful at times. But you never know, as you say. It can always be an unpredictable, tricky mistress, can the GCA 1750. Either way, I'm sure we're going to have a very exciting run, that is for sure. Just over 10 seconds now. We already hear those revs rise as drivers get ready to get those launches. Absolutely pitch perfect. We do indeed have 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away for race 1 here this evening at Castle Combe. It's Daly on the inside as he runs down through Folly and towards the quarry corner. But in fact, it's going to be Whitehead who creeps in behind, stays in P2, and that is a fantastic start, a dream start if you are Matt Daly. In fact, everyone gets away very cleanly indeed. Alan Matthews is looking like an eager mover in the mix here as he catches up to Miles Davis, goes very late on the brakes into the quarry corner, but no harm, no foul between anyone there. Everyone's kept the nose nice and clean, and we're on board with Paul Millman in P6. Jack Hodson's having a look around him on the exit of the quarry corner. We head down towards chicane for the paddock bend. And everyone is through. Matthews has a little skirmish with the outside of the circuit there, but he is still pointing in the right direction. That same could not be said for Miles Davis, though, who has an unfortunate run on the exit towards Paddock Bend and is back plumb last. An unfortunate bad luck, a fortunate run of bad luck, I should say, for Miles Davis over the past few rounds. It seems his mid-season really strung together well. He showed some immense pace, obviously took debut victories and podiums as well. Unfortunately, that fortune hasn't continued on, so imagine it'll be a case of pick up pieces and get ready for the fully fledged 2026 season, which will be brought to us next. We go on board, though, with Andrew Whitehead, half a second between himself and Matt Daly, as they begin the first full racing lap of the racing this evening. Daly leads us by half a second. There's then a 1.5 second gap down between Whitehead and Webb, so this is a clear battling duo. So far, Andrew Brammer's fantastic analysis is proving very much correct there. Long-time competitor and viewer of the AROC Racing League is Andrew Brammer, so his analysis is always very much appreciated. He's probably got more of a finger on the pulse sometimes than I do, it feels like, in this commentary box. 23 minutes left on the clock, though, and Whitehead is closing up to Matt Daly, as we can see some slight skirmishes with the environment there from previous attempts, but no such issues at the front end of the pack. Alan Matthews, meanwhile, has actually got purple sector 1, so is doing his most to close up to these front runners on the podium, and this could be a bit of a typical Alan Matthews race evening. It has been, oh dear, we have a big off there for Andrew Whitehead. Championship contender. Could this be the instance that brings that all to a close? This is hugely dramatic in our fight towards the end of the season. Whitehead plummets all the way down to 7th. We do still have 22 minutes to go in this race, so certainly don't count anything out just yet. But my oh my, that is not the way that Whitehead needed to try and keep this championship fight going. Whitehead plummets down to last position in this race, releasing Matt Daly. Matt Daly, who leads the championship tally by 30 points already, is poised, and I'm sure will, after the end of race 1, extend that gap quite substantially. That is big news in our championship. This could be the moment that it was won, and in the case of Andrew Whitehead, potentially lost as well. Hopefully it does continue on, and we do see some Andrew Whitehead heroics in this one, and he is back in the fight, but it would be a big act. But our drivers are certainly skilled enough to do that. Andy Webb then promoted into P2, and I was going to say that Alan Matthews, sometimes qualifying just doesn't quite string together, but you cannot deny Alan Matthews' race pace. It is absolutely there, as Matthews nearly has a sympathy off with Andy Webb there. Does manage to catch it in the end. Andy Webb has a big visit to the grass there. Was able to correct it and put it back on track, luckily, though. Meanwhile, Paul Millman's found a way past Jack Hodson. And is that because Jack Hodson potentially had an issue? No, he's just been overtaken there. But Steve Knight has had a little bit of a spin by the looks of things. Is back underway, but has plummeted down to 7th. That promotes Davis into 6th, and I suspect Knight is going to be under pressure shortly from Andrew Whitehead. Looking at the back end, sorry, at the front end of the pack, I did say. My brain isn't really functioning so far this evening. Daly is leading the charge by 5 seconds now. This is looking really strong from Matt. Daly has, as I say, been released. Now that the pressure is off, now that Andrew Whitehead isn't nipping at his heels, he can just settle in to a bit of a rhythm, start to bang in those really strong lap times, and he has absolutely done so, I must say. It's a 1:11.5. Now, that would have had him for most of qualifying on provisional pole, and he would have been second only to himself, pretty much. So that is really impressive stuff when we are going to see as well the fuel tank get lighter further into the race. The vintage tyre does seem to hold up pretty well, so it does mean, well as we can expect it to. Oh dear, as there we go, Daly's up on 2 wheels. So it does mean we will see some faster times later on, but only if Matt Daly can keep the car on all 4 wheels, pointing in the right direction and without major damage. That is certainly the case. Meanwhile, at the back end of the pack, Whitehead has found his way past Steve Knight, and now we are going to get some excitement in the form of Andrew Whitehead siding his way through the field, worming his way around his competitors as he does start to smash in those really fast lap times. He's 1:13 point flat, so he's a little bit of a ways off the likes of Daly and Webb at the moment. He's just waiting to pick up that pace, though, I suspect, and we will see him closing in on more of his rivals. He's already matching and exceeding the pace of Davis, certainly exceeding the pace of Millman, Hodson as well. So certainly, at least in the midfield, we do know that Whitehead is going to make some bold moves and is going to keep us entertained. That is very much something I'm looking forward to. 19 minutes left on the clock then. Here's what your race order's looking like so far, as we do have the unfortunate time marks of earlier incidents. It's Daly who leads the charge, is still smashing in those purple sectors. Then we have Andy Webb, who's beginning to be under pressure now from Alan Matthews. I have made a couple in fact, no, it was not actually in this series. I keep muddling my series up. It was in another racing series that I actually mentioned last week as well. But I said we've got the Jaws theme to hand, because I think we're going to need it. Because Alan Matthews is certainly closing up on Andy Webb at the moment. Is a bit of a, as I say, just lying in waiting, not quite there in qualifying, but the race pace is almighty. Half a second faster than Webb on that previous lap, so he's closing up on P2 and might just have already enough of a baked-in advantage to try and find a way past. There are a couple of overtaking opportunities here at Castle Combe. We're looking at one of them now as we run into the chicane, but it is worth bearing in mind that the track is quite narrow, and it's not like a modern Tilcadrome. It's a classic British circuit, which is one of the main traits of this racing series, is that we do visit a track pretty much from every AROC section that there is. And this evening we are near Bristol, so hello to all of you Bristolians watching along if you are. But oh dear, Matthews goes from 2 wheels. I was just trying to remember what I was going to say, but was, well, quite rightly distracted. What I was going to say, that's the link between the car going on 2 wheels, was, yeah, this track does bite, as many British tracks do, because you get narrow tarmac, high speed, and then grass. So it is certainly not one for the faint of heart, certainly not one for the give it a go, let's see what happens, and just chuck the car down the inside driver. This is a track that demands, as so many are in Britain, a track that demands respect and something to hone your skill on. So we did see Matthews up on 2 wheels then, which has been a consistent theme with the GTA 1750, shall we say, but after the fantastic work of the likes of Colin Keneath and all the other folks behind the scenes as well, it doesn't at least fall on its roof immediately now. It just goes up its 2 wheels. It's fine. It just keeps us a little bit on our toes and then rights itself. That's absolutely fine. No issues with that. It's just if it begins to roll over quite a lot. But we have no such issues. And yeah, British tracks, bit known for doing that sometimes, aren't they? I mean, I'm heading to Donington for my first ever time on Sunday. Never driven it. Never been there. Never driven it either. And Sunday will be my first ever attempt. So wish me luck. By all means, stay tuned to the news from Derby. If you know, keep looking at those headlines. You never know. I mean, there's a reason why I talk about it and not actually race it. So we'll see how it goes. Not breaking out the alpha for that, unfortunately, because this is something I'm genuinely quite devastated about, is that my fabulous little... I mean, I'm going to have to stop talking about that because we've got some actual racing action happening on screen, folks. 60 minutes to go in this one, and Millman is very much under pressure now from Miles Davis. We are heading And in fact, Davis is through. That is quite early on to get that move done. Some great momentum from Davis there. We run to the right-hand of the quarry corner. And in fact, Whitehead's been caught out in this one, so his progression through the pit field could be compromised here, but he does get a fantastic run out of quarry. We head into chicane towards the paddock, and through goes Whitehead as well. Davis now leads this trio, and Whitehead, I suspect, is going to try and put a stop to that one. Millman now is in for a real opportunity here to try and just echo the moves of those front-running drivers in front of him. See where he can maybe keep up with the pace through a couple of sections of the track, and potentially drawn back into the top-end fight here, because Hodson's not too far away. That would be fantastic if we were able to see that, but the action is certainly between Whitehead and Davis at this moment. 15 minutes left on the clock. Heading towards the end of this lap already. The laps do come thick and fast here at Castle Combe. Oh, I said Cadwell Park. I think I might have said Cadwell Park so far this evening. Castle Combe is definitely the one that I'm on about, folks, as you can tell by looking. But apparently I can't. Either way, Andrew Whitehead, 6th in this one. Has not found a way past Miles Davis quite so far. Let's have a look at their times in terms of comparisons. Well, Whitehead, a 1 minute 13.1 last time around, half a second faster than Davis, hence why we have got this lovely bit of fantastic action at the moment. Davis, fastest lap overall, 1 minute 12.8. And then we have Whitehead, 1 minute 12.2. So Whitehead does have the upper hand overall, but does need to try and find the opportunity to make a move here. As we do have Jack Hodson having issues on the exit, or rather the entry into the paddock bend, having just a bit of a shunt with the wall by the looks of things. And there we go. That is going to be Hodson down into 7th. Now, halfway into this race, or just around about before that, we are seeing a few purple sectors beginning to creep in. It's Alan Matthews, a 1 minute 13.7 on the last lap. On this one, it's going to be a little bit faster still. P3 in this race at the moment. Matthews crosses the line there, and that is a 1 minute 11.9. That is Matthews into the 11s now, absolutely flying along, but, and I've been looking at this one for about 30 seconds now, slightly in awe, because with 13 minutes to go in the race, with still some fuel in the car, bearing in mind that we just had qualifying. Oh no, the commentator's curse could be into effect here. He does catch it. Well held, Matt Daly. Hats off to you, sir. No idea how you did that one. I mean, what else can you say other than that is pure racing instinct to immediately correct the car like that, fight against the force feedback, and just be immediately back on the way and getting yourself back up to pace. Now, the reason why I mentioned commentator's curse is I was about to praise him. Oh no, it's going to happen again. I'm going to stop talking about his previous lap and how it was a really impressive 1 minute 10, because every time I go to mention it, he's up on 2 wheels. He has collected it, I'm pleased to report. Degley still does lead us. That last lap, a 1 minute 10.969. So eclipsing anything that we saw in qualifying so far. Absolutely flying along is Daly at the moment. This lap, 1 minute 16. Now, if you've been watching, you might have saw just why that was. Let's hope it's all a bit more plain sailing for Daly on this one, shall we? As Daly heads us around on the next lap as we cross the halfway marker in terms of time here this evening. Alan Matthews is in P3, has just posted their own personal best lap, 1 minute 11.6, so a couple of extra tenths found here. Just ahead is Andy Webb, so Matthews is closing up to Webb. I think we're still waiting to see this battle for P2. It's certainly on the cusp of a bit of action, so we look forward to that one. And then Miles Davis currently in P4 under pressure from Andrew Whitehead, and responding to the pressure from Andrew Whitehead as well. We've seen this one before, folks, with Miles leading the race and very much under threat from a front-running driver, but this time around, Whitehead does find a way on past as they run through the chicane at the paddock hill. Because every overtake here for Whitehead matters more than I think you can imagine, because he needs to try and claw back those points. He needs to keep himself in this fight, mathematically at least. It's very much Daly's for the taking, especially after that early race incident, but Whitehead just needs to keep his head down now. He's back up into P4. That's still a good point-scoring position. And he's got a long way to try and close up the likes of Matthews, Webb and Daly, but I suspect maybe if there's some issues further into the race, he might be in with a shout for a podium here. Not that I would wish any instance on any of our drivers, because, well, Daly certainly had enough of them. He's just boosted a purple Sector 1, and that wasn't quite achieved through 2 and 3. Webb is running along very nicely in second, and I think we have Jack Hodson's having further issues down in P8. Unfortunately, things not playing out for him quite as well as he would have wanted, which is a surprise because he is in the mid in the mid-range action in terms of the championship standings overall, which we are going to look at now as we have just over 10 minutes to go in this race. As you well know, folks, it's Daly who leads us by 30 points heading into this race weekend, or 29 to be precise, shall we, when we're talking about numbers. It's Daly who leads us with 383 points to his name. That's ahead of Whitehead on 352. Then there is a bit of a gap down to Alan Matthews on 269. He's ahead of Colin Knief, who unfortunately hasn't been able to be present for quite as many rounds as he or I'm sure we would have liked as well. So hopefully we'll see you back at some point, Colin. Thank you for all the work on the car as well. That is Knief in fourth, 233 points to his name. That is matched by Miles Davis, who are on board with that at the moment, which is really impressive stuff. Davis is in fifth, just on count back as to what the results look like. But after this round, obviously, Davis will jump ahead of Knief in the standings, which is really impressive for a young driver to be fighting at the top end in terms of points there. I actually don't know how old you are, Miles. So I've said young driver. That is probably due to my cadet karting work there. By all means, take the compliment, but also perhaps I was meant to say lesser experience, but certainly you've driven as if you have plenty of it so far this season. Then we move on to Paul Millman in this session, who is 10th in the standings at the moment, 40 points to his name, and no front tyres as well, by the looks of things. So hopefully you pick up some more points and pick up some fresh tyres before race 2. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Let's have a look at elsewhere in the championship. So Paul Millman's in P10, then we have Andy Webb in P6 in the standings and P2 in this race. So this race will actually serve to be a very nice boost and bring him into the 200-point region, as he's currently on 188. Then we have Jack Hodson, as we mentioned, 136 to his name, P7 in the standings. Steve Knight on 100 points, a really strong season for Knight so far. 100 points, P8 in the standings. That's ahead of Guy Swarbrick on 64 with P9. Paul Millman in P6 in this race. He's in 10th, as I say. And then we have Greg Young on 11th in the standings, 30 points to his name. John Cole, 12th in the standings, 29. Andrew Crager, 13th with 28. Then we have Mike Hilton, 14th in the standings with 21. And Alex Smith rounds us out with 2 whole points. Hey, every point that counts, and it's certainly 2 more than me. 8.5 minutes left to go in this session then. So far, Daly controls things very nicely. 10 seconds is the gap between himself and P2. And things look to be settling quite nicely. We are still waiting for this battle between Webb and Matthews, but I will say praise to both of those drivers for being oh so consistent in the running so far. Further issues for Hodson in this one here. Continues on in P8, so will take a couple of points at least, but just not the race weekend that he would have wanted. 7 minutes to go in this one. Some of the cars looking, well, some of them look, well, they all look completely unscathed, but some of them are certainly under the skin, not quite as happy. And as I was going to mention before, as you very well, some of you watching might have saw in the AROC Racing League's WhatsApp group, my poor little Mito QV. Very rare specification these days in the Rosso Magliatore, the metallic one. Sarbelt seats, the works. I think that, and it's a manual QV as well, I think the numbers of them still about in such a spec can be probably counted on maybe 2 hands even. They're not very common these days, are the Mitos. They're in certain guises. So a real great shame that unfortunately an ambulance decided to swipe the side of it and 2 other cars as well. The 2 other cars got off relatively lightly, but the poor Mito is a little bit unhappy, shall we say. So things are not looking good for it because, well, that paint's going to take a lot to get resprayed. So unfortunately, potentially well, it won't be the end of the road for me, so but it might be a bit of a temporary retirement, shall we say, while it becomes a bit of a project for another day, which is a terrible shame. But yeah, I'm very sad about that. I love my little Alpha, and unfortunately, it's not done too well. Meanwhile, the BMW, which hates me, absolutely fine, unscathed, not touched. It hates me, that car, and it's worked for a solid 2 weeks now. So, well, I say that it's leaking horrendous amounts of oil, but it's a BMW, it's what they do. But there's a brief update to Reeve's motoring life. There you go. I'm sure you all tuned in for that one. 5 minutes to go in this session. Matt Daly still leads us. I've got it as well. I'm sorry. I'm just really very annoyed about this Mito being cracked. It's right before show season's about to start in a couple of months. The car was going to be, you know, I had plans to do some lovely suspension stuff, take it out to Europe and get it all ready to go. And now it looks like a crumpled tin can at the back. Either way, 5 minutes left. I mean, it's one major dent and a big door scuff, but, you know, it's still that would still write it off because the values are not very strong these days. 5 minutes left on the clock. Let's stop talking about such boring and sad things as that, as we see Hodson being lapped here by Miles Davis. He does find a way on through, and Alan Matthews has in fact found a way past Andy Webb. That seems to be a fairly late apologies. No, that is in fact just a bit of a timing error. I thought that came out of the blue. That was very unexpected. I've been keeping my eye on that one because that battle we do know has been brewing potentially. There hasn't been any major change in terms of their pace overall. They've been matching each other to within a tenth for a number of laps now, but I did fear that maybe some type of incident had happened, and I do think that is the only way that these two are going to swap at this point, is some type of on-track incident, which, well, we certainly don't want to see, do we? Because we want these drivers to win it fair and square and have a great time as well. I do think the tyres are beginning to disappear from some of these drivers now, as we just saw from the onboard shot of Matt Daly. He does continue on through the chicane though with a 12, make that 13, pretty much second margin down to P2 and 4 minutes left on the clock. Daly looking unstoppable in this race. Whitehead meanwhile is up in fourth, has cleared Miles Davis by a few seconds, but unfortunately it definitely would have been too much to ask for him to close up on the likes of Matthews and Webb, because that is a chasm in terms of time between them, even on his absolute best laps, and we know how fast Whitehead is. That would be a very tall order in a 25-minute race. As we see Daly finding a way past some lap traffic there. I believe Miles Davis has just had an incident out on track. He's lost a substantial amount of time. Can continue on, so still pointing in the right direction. Will remain in P5, so nothing major is lost. Just hopefully no more further incidents, otherwise he might be under threat and lose a few more points here. Matthews, I should add, has just gone purple sector one. Probably won't be doing it through the second one, though. Has a slightly iffy run through the paddock bend, or into the paddock bend at least. And Matthews continues on, running along in P3. Two minutes left on the clock then, and Daly has just been, once again, as we've seen on a number of occasions, not only this season but throughout the AROC Racing League's history, has just been cruising along, seemingly on a different phase of existence at this point. He's just comfortable out in front, settling down and taking those lap times as he flies on by through some corners. Now, I should add, I say he's just cruising along home. We did see a number of points, around about lap 10 in particular, that car on two wheels more than it was on four. So 13 seconds is a very big margin in terms of the overall race, but if anything were to go awry, that would evaporate rather quickly. So hopefully he can keep the tyres on it, bring it home, and he will further bolster his championship efforts, which are looking stronger and stronger with every round as we head into the final part of this lap. Whitehead had some great Whitehead had some great recovery points at various moments throughout the season, and there have been nip and tuck, trading blows left, right and centre, really. The top 4 have been taking points away from each other. You know, usually by this point, in the past, we have seen getting close to 500 points on the board overall. So to say that we're only in the mid 350s is impressive, because it does mean that we have had some close action at various points, which is exactly what we have enjoyed on these broadcasts. But Daly, right when it matters, just seems to be settling into things quite well at this point of the season, I must say. He's keeping his cool, doesn't need to do anything particularly brave from here on out though, because he knows even if, you know what, he doesn't take pole, he doesn't take race wins, but oh dear, it goes a bit wrong through the panic chicane. He does catch it though. As I was going to say, can afford to just ease off the pressure and bring it home comfortably. Further issues. My commentator's curse has been solely aimed at Matt Daly, it appears, so far this evening, and I do apologise for that one, Matt. You're never going to allow me back into your Alpha Sud at this rate, are you? Which does remind me, I need to book my meter on to the track day at National Alpha Day. Well, the track parade at National Alpha Day. I think I might have run out of time to do that, potentially. I mean, given that I forgot that my Owners Club membership did briefly lapse. Well, I say briefly, definitely lapsed. I've rectified that now. I just completely forgot. I was wondering where the magazine was. But that's all sorted out, which means I'd need to get my car registered on for the parade lap, providing it isn't a complete Cat S by then. Either way, let's forget about that for now, and Matt Daly, I'm sure, is hoping to just bring it home nice and comfortably with no major kind of worries, stresses, troubles, anything to keep you up at night. I'm sure Matt Daly's just looking to cruising on home with no major challenge, and I do think that is what is going to be the case for this race as a whole, apart from between Webb and Matthews, as Matthews is still trying to put pressure on Andy Webb, as he has been effectively the entire race. I mentioned it early on. Well done, you two, for just keeping the pressure on, staying consistent. Really good. Sometimes you don't need to be side by side banging doors together for it to be fantastic racing. The challenge can just be keeping up with each other, keeping the pressure on, learning what your rival's doing and having a good time out on track. I think that's certainly what those two have done. So well done, you two. Hopefully we'll see more of that as we head into the final phase of this race, and the chicane just gets a little bit trickier still. This time it's on the exit of the Tower Corner, and Daly keeps the hold of it just about, only has one major corner to negotiate, and it looks it on paper, and I'm sure at some point he didn't feel it in the car though. It's an easy victory for Matt Daly, who takes race 1 dominance here at Castle Combe. Fantastic stuff from the car in yellow as he furthers his championship hopes and begins to put pen to paper on that front, really. Andy Webb brings it home in P2 in the end, just ahead of Alan Matthews. That rounds out your podium, and then we will have a recovery nonetheless for Andrew Whitehead, who brings it home P4. Could have been much more and could have continued on his championship hopes. They do still exist, at least mathematically, but I am sure Whitehead might be looking back on this one as the potential turning point. Either way, did a decent recovery drive nonetheless. Miles Davis then will be bringing it home P5. That's your top 5 rounded out, and then we have a bit of a wait for Paul Millman. Steve Nice is classified as P7. Miles Davis is phasing through the ground. Jack Hodson retires from the session. What a shame to see that. A late retirement here means that it's going to be a full reverse grid for the reverse grid action coming up next. Paul Millman rounds the camp corner to bring an end to race 1. There we go then. Race 1 here at Castle Combe completed. Don't go anywhere though, because in a few minutes we're going to get back on the grid, ready for our reverse grid, race 2. Welcome back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are on the grid, ready for race 2, our reverse grid action. The grid is as follows. It's Miles Davis and Matt Daly. No, it's not at all. Apologies, my list is wrong. That's Steve Knight and Paul Millman, followed by Miles Davis and Andrew Whitehead. It's Alan Matthews and Andy Webb, followed by Matt Daly, completing the 7-car grid for this reverse grid action here. Well, certainly had an interesting one in race 1. This car did bite, as Andrew Brower quite rightfully predicted, heading into race 1, which does mean I'm going to completely, basically, absolve myself of any blame for commentators' curses. No, please do not send your postcards and complaints to me this time around. Not me. Honest. Definitely not. Either way, 30 seconds now until lights out. And this is going to be a very interesting one indeed. Matt Daly has it all to do from the back end of the pack, but it's going to be compacted order on the very first lap of this race. Andrew Whitehead is with the advantage here, a few cars ahead, only a couple to try and navigate his way past, to try and take the front end of this race, to try and claw back those points that he lost in race 1. That will bring him back into contention if he can score ahead. Either way, we do have 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away for race 2, our reverse grid action. It's a good start for Whitehead. It's an even better start for Matt Daly, though. He's already alongside Andy Webb, and he's trying to find a way past Andy Webb, and he does so indeed. We run through the Folly and down towards Corey's Corner in just a moment. Millman and Steve and I have a bit of a coming together on this very first part of the lap from the front end of the pack, and Andrew Whitehead's hopes are dashed, folks. That is it. Unfortunately, let's see if we can look back. I think it was just a bit of the old concertina effect in the midfield, and that is the risk you play with reverse grid action. When do you choose to be decisive? When do you choose to make those moves? Miles Davis is in the lead of the race. Meanwhile, utter despair for Andrew Whitehead. That brings an end to his championship hopes, folks. Nothing that he can do now to take away the charge in this championship anymore. Just doing some napkin maths to definitely confirm that is correct, but as it stands, yeah, quite comfortably, Matt Daly, correct myself. If Matt Daly can't get any further than P6, it's still on. It is still on mathematically, but only just. But really only just. And it would, again, mathematically rely on Andrew Whitehead taking both race victories in the final round, and Matt Daly not scoring effectively, which is pretty impossible to do given that we've had we've had no more than 10 drivers at any point over the past few rounds. Meanwhile, Daly's finding his way on through this pack if he can. He parts the C's of Paul Milne. No, sorry, that is Steve. No, that is Steve Knight. Apologies there. Steve, he parts the C's of Steve and Andy Webb there. So Daly's up into 4th now, and yeah, there we go. I think, folks, what we have just witnessed is the end to Whitehead's championship charge, which is a terrible shame. He's done an immense job so far this season. Just that is the way of racing sometimes. We'll have a much clearer idea of what the points look like, obviously, after the end of race 2. The results are in and are on the board from race 1. If you would very much like to tune in and have a gander yourself, you can always do so, folks. AROC2.emperorservers.com. So that's AROC number 2.emperorservers.com. We'll take you to our homepage for this server. Then you can navigate to the burger menu. That's the 3 lines button there. Click Championships and then navigate to the GTA 1750 H2 2025 Championship. That will take you to this championship where you can look at all the race results. You can look at the championship standings as well. And unfortunately, Whitehead's fate is sealed in this one. 22 minutes left on the clock, though. Davis leading the charge quite, not leaving, although he is leaving the pack, leading the charge quite nicely. 3.5 seconds, his advantage so far. And all of a sudden, Alan Matthews has become his best friend in this race, because we know Matthews has certainly got some pace. He demonstrated that at numerous points in race 1. He is going to want to be fighting for this P2. He's certainly not going to just let Daly just swoop on by. He wants his 2nd spot on the podium, and by all means, Matthews is 3rd in this championship as it stands, and wants to further consolidate that, because in theory he could lose that to Miles Davis as it stands. So by all means, Matthews is going to fight for second, which means that Daly's going to have a bit more work to do in this one to try and close up on the likes of Davis. Davis seems to have lost a little bit of time through Sector 2. That delta, in fact, standing at positive 0.9 seconds. There's nearly a whole second lost through the final sector. I think maybe a bit of the middle as well. We'll see in just a moment. Yeah, it's a mixture of the two there. But Alan Matthews is not really focused on Miles Davis at the moment. He is looking behind him in his rear view mirror of his fabulous GTA 1750 in his it's rather well known and appreciated over the seasons. Green and white livery now. The Auto Italia stickered car there for Alan Matthews has been a mainstay in our series for quite some time. And Matthews is doing his utmost to keep it in front of Matt Daly's yellow liveried car as we approach the third lap of this race. And Daly's doing his usual through the chicane there of just chucking the car up onto two wheels. Because why not? You know, life's more fun when the car might just plant itself into the soil next to you. I can't say I've ever gotten, well, I've got a little bit near that in the past in my old 3 Series, but didn't quite get to those heights there. Anyone else got any sympathies for Matt Daly here? Anyone got any? But none of them are fun, but you never know. You never know. In your youth, you do silly things, don't you? Has anyone else had some near misses with getting the cars up on 2 wheels? Again, can't say I have on the road. Can't say I have at any point apart from an ill-fated round of karting, actually. So I imagine it's a very odd sensation, but that's probably not what he's focusing on right now. Alan Matthews is running in P2, is just about slower than Daly on that last lap. But this time around, Daly's looking a lot more secure. Had a great run out of the folly. Heads down towards the quarry corner. Is on the inside there. And still hasn't taken the position, actually. Has the nose out in front, but it's a great run around the outside of the quarry corner for Alan Matthews. And in fact, does lose out to it as we enter the paddock bend. So there we go, P2 for Daly at the moment. Davis leads the charge by 2.5 seconds, but Daly has been released. And I do think we could be seeing a fight on our hands now for the race lead in this one, folks. 90 minutes left on the clock. And Davis is going to be under threat once again. Now, Davis has done this before in the past. In the looking back, it was Cadwell Park, actually. It was Cadwell Park the last time that Davis had such pressure against him. And he did not crack under that pressure. He had a fantastic go of it and ended up with some accolades to add to his collection early on in his racing league career. So hopefully, for his sake at least, he can continue that on. Because wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be a poetic way to round out the season if Davis can replicate that in the National Tyres liveried car there? I do think I heard the outside wheel, no, the inside wheel of the car, sorry, getting unloaded through that right-hander, and I imagine a bit of open diff action potentially, although I don't believe these cars have an open diff. They just might not have locked up entirely. We did see the revs just completely rise up there, which has cost him some time. Daly is creeping up on him now. Less than a second separates the two yellow liveried cars. Luckily, there is the red roof on Davis, otherwise it would be mighty confusing, wouldn't it? I think there's slightly different shades of yellow, but Daly's got the red wheels as well. Big stripe also helps Reeve. I mean, pay some attention. Again, apologies, I'm on effectively no sleep. 17.5 minutes to go in this one. Alan Matthews is looking pretty good for another podium here. It will be a very strong season for Matthews all around. I mean, P3 in the championship is certainly nothing to stick your nose up at. I think Matthews has been victim of a couple of moments of bad luck, shall we say, which just mean that he's not been able to quite be on the podium as often as I think he certainly deserves to be, given the pace that he has demonstrated on a number of occasions in this one. So another one to add to his tally will be certainly welcome, I suspect. But we're going to go back down towards Quarry Corner, where Daly is beginning to be a bit of a thorn in the side of Miles Davis. Now he runs down the farm straight, and we can see Daly's already setting himself up on the inside there, is making his presence very much known, and is going to demand a lot of Miles Davis as a racing driver now. Now Miles Davis is going to have to try and think on his feet. He's going to have that mental aptitude about him to keep his rival behind him if he can. Putting on a good defence without compromising your own run is a very difficult thing to do, and so far Davis has done a good job of it. He's put his car in just about the right position to make sure that Daly can't find an easy path past. Daly, we saw as that run into paddock then, was having to get pretty creative, and it could potentially compromise him. I mean, we know that chicane is a particular pain point for Daly if race 1 is anything to go by, so these two, I'm sure, are going to be in for a great fight. Miles Davis, I think, is making a bit of a name for himself as the defensive driving dominator. There we go. I was trying to think of a bit of alliteration there. And, well, Miles Davis has put on some fantastic defensive drives for us so far this season. Seems to be a real strength of his. I mean, we saw the pace of Daly in the race, in race 1. Has that potentially come to an end, though, as we see Daly takes the inside? No, he runs through Quarry Corner and still has to remain behind. This is fantastic stuff between these two yellow cars now. Davis just seems to have a really strong sense of what his rivals are going to be doing in terms of their attack behind him, and he puts on some great defensive drives. As I mentioned, Cadwell that we saw. We also saw a bit of that, a glimpse of that in race 1 here, and we're going to see it even more so as we are seeing here in race 2. Let's not forget, Daly was in the 1-minute 10s in race 1. He has not been able to match that, and that all comes down to the fact that he just simply can't find a way past Miles Davis. Oh dear, and Owen actually can't find a way to keep his car up on 4 wheels at the moment. Once again, at the chicane, mounts the curb, goes up onto 2 wheels. Has brought it back down to earth, though. Can continue on. Has built up a nice gap to Matthews as well. Matthews is in a bit of no man's land at the moment, as we always see in P3. I feel bad for everyone in P3. It gets rather lonesome by the looks of things. A few seconds into front, it's always P1 and P2, and then a few seconds down is the top, upper end of the midfield. So Matthews is looking rather lonesome, but still on for some decent points. We go back to the top end of the pack, though, where Davis is still maintaining his defensive driving masterclass here. Runs around the outside. Daly can't find a way past. Gets a great run, though, as we head down the farm straight once again. Has a brief glimpse to the inside. Davis, very wise to it at this point, pretty much wrestles the car over to the right, compromises his run slightly, but most importantly, closes the door on Daly. This is good, fair, clean racing. These two are being so mature about this battle for the race victory. It's fantastic between these two. We saw just how much people were enjoying it after Miles Davis's last defensive masterclass, and the plaudits, well-deserved plaudits, went around the paddock chat afterwards, and I suspect we're going to see the same again, because these two must be having an absolute whale of a time. I certainly am, watching them as we approach our 11th minute of this race here at Bristol and Castle Combe. Things are looking very interesting at the front end of the pack. I mean, elsewhere there's also some pretty close running. We will try and have a look at that in just a moment. As we start the next lap, we can see a great view here on the bonnet of Daly's car. Just look at how close he's getting. Let's see if we can jump back to that as runs around the outside does Daly. Will this be the move that finally secures it? I don't think it will be, because Davis still has a path to keep the car out in front. This is brilliant stuff from Matt Daly. Less than a tenth separates these two drivers. In fact, they are side by side. Why is my camera now given up the ghost? It hasn't, and pleased to report we can still see what's going on. Davis somehow still leads the charge in this one. What a battle this is shaping up to be, folks. Let's go on board. Let's go for that bonnet cam once again. 13 minutes on the clock this time around. There's been a bit of an incident further down the order. Looks like Steve Knight has had further issues and tumbled down ever so slightly. That battle that we saw brewing in the P4, P5, P6 region has dissipated now. The closest runners are right in front of us here, folks. We're at the front end of Daly's car. Just look at how close he is getting to Davis. Davis, I'm surprised that hasn't been a tongue twister quite yet. I'm sure it will be a typical Reeve tongue twister in just a moment, though, as we head down the camp corner once again onto the start finish straight. We get to just about half race distance. That's it, folks. We've still got another half of this race to go, and pleased to report it's been brilliant stuff so far. Daly sets himself up for a look around the outside as we run through the folly. He gets closer still. Who goes later on the brakes, though? Into the quarry corner. Davis positions the car perfectly on the inside, and most importantly doesn't completely compromise his run, but does lose some time, which does give Daly a sniff of P1. He does have to tumble back behind, though, as we run into the paddock chicane. Davis once again is using that chicane to his advantage. Well, I will say that this is doing, though, folks, is did you see that in the rearview mirror? Hello, Alan Matthews. It's Alan Matthews on the scenes, folks. This isn't going to be a battling duo anymore. It is going to be a battling trio for the front end of this race. Our penultimate race weekend, of course, and our third to last race of the season overall. And I think we're going to be treated to a 3-car battle for the race lead. Now, what Alan Matthews needs to do is just keep the nose clean, keep himself cool, calm and collected, and just lay in waiting. If anything is going to happen between these two, Alan Matthews is the driver, poised to benefit from that substantially at the moment. He's on with them in terms of pace. He's not too far behind. If anything were to happen out in front, he would be gifted a golden opportunity for a race victory here at Castle Combe. But what brilliant stuff between Davis and Daly so far. Those sentiments echoed by Andrew in the chat. Thank you very much for watching along. Hasn't it been fantastic? Daly has a look down the inside though. Could this be the move to finally get it done as we run through the quarry corner? Once again, running it around the outside is paying dividends for Miles Davis, who runs into the paddock chicane once again, leading the charge. And there's been so many opportunities in this race so far where you were going to say, that's it. This is the move that Daly can get done now. This is going to be the opportunity for Daly to lead this race. But no, once again, Davis is not cracking under pressure, is not giving up the ghost when he sees his rival alongside, or maybe even half the car that's out in front. He is not letting that phase him in the slightest. He's just doing exactly what he needs to do, and he can keep charge of this race. My, oh my, what a treat this has been so far. Miles Davis, what? Oh, it's just a defensive wizardry. That's all I have to say, really. As we head around the camp corner, onto the start-finish straight we go. 0.2 of a second separate the two. Daly having another sniff down the inside, I am sure, but is not going to be able to do anything quite yet because it's great momentum all around for both Yellow's cars and Alan Matthews in behind as well, who is now potentially watching on as Daly gets a move done. Daly goes round the outside of the quarry corner this time around. This could be the final moment in this battle between Davis and Daly, with Davis out in front. It's Matt Daly now who takes race victory as we head down towards the paddock chicane. This is brilliant stuff from Matt Daly. Davis settles for P2. Does he? No, he doesn't. The pressure gets the better of him on the run into the paddock bend. It's a bit of a tank slapper courtesy of some grass. Miles Davis in the barrier. What a shame this has been for Miles Davis, from leading the race and putting on a great defensive drive there to tumbling down to P3. P3, don't get me wrong, is still a fantastic position to be in, still some great points, but what could have been for Miles Davis? And if he's not careful, he needs to pick up this pace pretty well, because just behind is Andrew Whitehead and Andy Webb. Alan Matthews, meanwhile, has found a way past Matt Daly. Sorry, see, I'm getting confused with the yellow cars already. Alan Matthews has found a way past Matt Daly in this one. Here we go, Alan Matthews. Remember when I said in race one, watch out, play that Jaws theme, because Alan Matthews is something else in the races. Here we go now, folks. Half a second is the advantage between Matthews and Daly, which, if you asked me a lap ago, I certainly wouldn't have expected to have been saying it is the battle for the race lead, but it is nonetheless. Half a second is still that margin. Make that 0.3, make that 0.2. Daly creeping up on the car out in front, which is something he's very accustomed to in this race so far. He certainly knows how to do that. It's a slightly different opponent this time around, so we'll have to see how that changes the dynamic of things. But my oh my, I'm still recovering from that brilliant battle we saw for P1, and I can't believe we get another one. What a treat this has been so far, folks. Castle Combe, I was a bit worried, I'm not going to lie. It's a narrow British circuit. You start to wonder, yes, there's overtaking opportunities, but unless drivers are being particularly brave and if they're being sensible, we might just get a little bit of a procession potentially, especially with 7 cars on the grid. But I needn't have worried, because the action has certainly delivered. We head into the camp corner once again. Matthews controls things. Daly rides the apex there and gets ready to start the next lap. 0.3 of a second is being closed up upon now. As we run around the first corner, it remains the same for the time being. But once again, I think we're going to see Matt Daly try and have a look down into the chicane, but keeping back for the time being. Can he see an opportunity? He did see an opportunity briefly present himself, so he went late on the brakes. Alan Matthews, more than entitled, it was his corner after all, just decides to maintain his inside run there, so nothing that Daly could do that time round. There in the background as well is Davis, Whitehead and Webb. So in fact, we've got our top 5 within 12 seconds. Really impressive stuff, all things said and done. 14 laps into this race. Daly having a look around the outside now. I'd be interested to see what Daly feels like he has to do differently in comparison to try and find a way past Matthews compared to Davis. I'm sure he's just going to say, we'll just go fast and just try and find a way past. But Matthews has the upper hand for the time being. And Daly, I'm sure Daly probably went into this reverse race thinking, I'll probably have it done by maybe lap 8, lap 9. I'll be in the lead of things, but no. Here we go on lap 14. He still can't find a way past the race leader, despite holding that race lead very briefly. Could this be the opportunity, though, as he runs round the camp corner? We head towards the Folly to start the next lap. Daly got very close indeed. Is on the inside and needs to try and get himself secured for the outside of the quarry corner. That is the make or break decision, really, between P1 and P2. It seems to be the driver who carries the outside through quarry and the run into the chicane is the driver who will have the advantage. They make contact, though, into the quarry. It isn't lasting damage, though, ideally there, but it is still not exactly what we would have wanted to have seen between the battle for P1 and P2. Alan Matthews then still leads things, but all things considered, not really any time lost in that. A few tenths at most, but Matthews is going to lose more time. Here we go, on the outside, into the grass. Disaster for Alan Matthews. This track, this car, they bite, and Matthews needs to wait to rejoin safely. He is going to be just about able to rejoin safely with some avoiding action by some other cars there. Oh, what a shame for Alan Matthews from P1 down to P5. Not the way I'm sure he would have wanted this race to have been. And now, here we go, 5 minutes to go. 9 seconds. It's the race lead from... Oh, I'll try and get my words out. 9 seconds is the race lead for Matt Daly. Who would have seen that coming? Just a few laps ago, you would have thought, you know, this could have gone on till the very end. But now we have a 9-second advantage, which if you tuned in at the, you know, the various points of race 1, you tuned out and then you just tuned back in, you'd probably say this is what you expect, but what you don't expect is that, once again, we've got the GTA 1750s up on 2 wheels. Davey, I think you're just doing it for style points at this point, aren't you? You're just doing it to raise my blood pressure. As if there has been enough action in this race already. Daly still continues on in the race lead, despite his whir to the outside edge of his tyres at numerous points in this race weekend so far. And Davis is very much under pressure now from Andrew Whitehead. What we're going to call this one, folks, is damage limitation here. Because if Whitehead can find a way past Davis, that brings him back up into P2, which does indeed mean that by the skin of his teeth, mathematically this is still on. But we do know for a fact that realistically, fortunately, those hopes are probably dashed. Mathematically, it could still happen, as there we go. Whitehead finds a way past Davis and into P2. Just behind is Andy Webb as well. It's a Matt Daly P1, Andrew Whitehead P2, and then we have Davis P3, followed by Webb P4, Matthews P5, Millman P6, and Stephen Knight Ranninger are running on the lead lap still in P7. That was a very interesting run into the chicane there for Miles Davis. Was able to recover it, but it did for a moment look like the back end was going to completely kick out, so he did well there to pick it back up. 3 minutes left on the clock in this one, so let's have just a brief glance at the championship standings as they stand after race 1 so far this evening. So, Matt Daly's on 408 points. That is now a near enough, well, 36-point margin between himself. No, it's not at all, Reeve. Get your maths correct. Please get your maths correct. It's a 44-point advantage between Daly and Whitehead there. Whitehead on 364 in P2 in the standings. Then we have Alan Matthews on 284. Miles Davis is into P4 now, jumps ahead of Colin Keneath, 243 points to his name. Then we have Andy Webb in P6 in the standings on 206 points. So if things go his way, might actually jump ahead of Colin Keneath and take P5 in the standings, which will be an impressive run for Andy Webb there in his debut season as well. Jack Hodson is with 140 points to his name in P7, which means he was actually classified for his race finish last time out and hasn't unfortunately participated in race 2, but does cement his position in P7 just that little bit more at least. Steve Knight's on 106 points in P8, so we'll take a couple more and get closer to Hodson as well. Guy Swarbrick's is on 64 points with P9. Millman's on 48 points with P10 in the standings. Then we have Greg Young, P11, 30 points to his name. John Cole, Andy Craig, Mike Hilton and Alex Smith. No change in the order, not scoring anything from race 1 as they weren't present, of course. So a couple of changes here or there, which is still impressive given we are late into the season. but the overriding storyline from the championship standings this evening has certainly been the battle between Daly and Whitehead, which hasn't really happened all that much on track, it must be said. But Daly just... well, he's already got one hand on the trophy, and now he's beginning to support the bottom of the trophy, and with the eyes of moving his other hand onto it now at this point. He is looking very strong indeed. And it is Daly in the running here. Has built up a nice points margin, and we have very little time left in not only this race, but this season as well. This is our penultimate round of the season, of course. We will be returning back to Silverstone, where we started things, to bring an end to this championship, and that will be in a fortnight's time. We, of course, started on a national layout. We will conclude things at the GP layout in 2 weeks here for the Historics. In the interim, next week, next Wednesday, we are going to have our touring cars here at Castle Combe as well. Still seeing some pretty close action between Andy Webb and Miles Davis. 40 seconds left on the clock as Andy Webb tries to find a way past Miles Davis. Has a look down through the run through the exit of the Tower corner. Isn't able to do anything just yet, but might have a couple of tricks up his sleeve, as Miles Davis has at least recovered up into P3. But what could have been for Davis in this race? Did an immense job to put on such a defensive drive against Matt Daly for so long in this race. Starts the next lap at 20 seconds left on the clock. This will be the penultimate lap of this race then. And I just want to keep one eye on this. Well, I want to keep both eyes on this battle here, because here we go, Andy Webb having a look around the outside, but as we head through Folly, that translates to the inside, and nothing that Webb can do from this far back. Both drivers taking a comfortable run through the quarry corner and continuing down towards the paddock chicane yet again. We have 0 seconds left on the timer, folks. This means this is the penultimate lap of the penultimate race weekend of the season. And what a season it has been so far. I've mentioned it a few times so far this evening. And Matt Daly is looking to do his penultimate lap in style. Purple Sector 1, Sector 2 has only the castle, sorry, not the castle corner, the camp corner to negotiate now. We could be on for a bit of a fly here. I don't know if we're quite going to see... oh, no, I think we are. Look at your predicted in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, folks. Will it be another 1 minute 10 for Matt Daly as he crosses the line there? It's a 1 minute 10.7. That is leap ahead of anything we saw in qualifying. It's 2/10 faster than the fastest lap in race 1 as well. What a time from Matt Daly, folks. That is blistering stuff there. Hats off to you. I mean... I know the fuel tank has got lighter, but we are late into this race, and it has not been an easy race for Matt Daly. He's had his work cut out for him here in race 2, courtesy of the likes of Miles Davis, and he's had his work cut out for him in the championship as well, courtesy of the likes of Andrew Whitehead, Alan Matthews, and Colin Knief to boot as well. But it's going to be relatively plain sailing. He's certainly kept himself occupied with some two-wheeled action as well when he's not been pretty much bumper to bumper with the likes of Miles Davis or Alan Matthews. But overall, the overriding theme, as I mentioned earlier on, folks, as Matt Daly navigates the final corner in just a few moments' time, some lap traffic to boot as well, is that Matt Daly will further cement his championship position, and, as I say, already has one hand on that trophy as he bridges the gap, extends that gap, sorry, to Andrew Whitehead, brings it home and takes race 2 victory here at Castle Combe. Yet another dominant weekend from Matt Daly right when it counted. Congratulations, Matt Daly. Andrew Whitehead then, a recovery drive, certainly to applaud here, up into P2 in the end. Andrew Whitehead brings it home second overall. Miles Davis, another driver worthy of applause, rounds out the podium in P3, but held on to P1 for so long with a fantastic defensive drive there. Andy Webb brings it home in P4 for another solid point-scoring result here. And then we have a bit of a wait to Alan Matthews, an unfortunate end to what was shaping up to be a brilliant race for Alan Matthews in this one as well. Steve Nice is classified P7 in this one yet again, so a few points to boot there. And we wait for the final couple of cars to navigate the camp corner. Top 5 finish for Alan Matthews, but I'm sure could have been a little bit more there because it was great pace overall in the racing for Alan Matthews. And then rounding out our runners, it is Paul Milburn who brings it home in P6. Now these... Now we got dodgems, we got bumper cars once again. It's been a little while since we've had a destruction derby at the end of a race, but I think drivers are enjoying the tyre wall, so it seems. So Matt Daly is going to celebrate with some victory donuts, folks. There is Davis in shot, as well as Andy Webb. Davis, it's the yellow cars. It must be something about the yellow cars that enjoy doing the victory donuts. Andy Webb, a commendable effort as well, but victorious in the racing action, victorious in victory donuts as well. My top applause does have to go to Matt Daly for that one, but very, very strong efforts from everyone else there, as it has just descended into chaos, seemingly. So I'll probably leave it there on that note. Thank you very much for watching this evening, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it, and do stay tuned. Next week we're back at Castle Combe in the touring cars, and then in a fortnight's time we round out the historic action at Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. I do hope you stay tuned for that one to round out what has been a brilliant season. So thank you for watching this evening, and good night.